Welcome to the We Are Wake Tech podcast with your host, Wake Tech President, Dr. Scott Rawls.
Hello, I'm Scott Rawls, host of the We Are Wake Tech podcast. Thanks for joining us this month. We have an exciting topic to talk about: engineering and its important role at Wake Tech and the pathway to engineering that's available through Wake Tech into all the great jobs that exist in our region. And joining us today are two great engineering professionals and great Wake Tech leaders. Dr. Laura Eddington, who's Dean of our Building, Engineering and Skilled Trades program, our best program, BEST program at Wake Tech, certainly one of the best programs at Wake Tech. And Dr. Hassam Gassemi, who leads our Associate in Engineering programs and has been very involved with the connections between our applied engineering programs and our college transfer programs in engineering that he leads. So we're excited to have both Laura and Hassam. This is going to be a great discussion about a very unique and important program area at Wake Tech. So Laura, Hassam, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Before we get started though, tell me a little bit about your journey into engineering, and then how did you get to Wake Tech? We're very fortunate to have professionals like you who have made Wake Tech what it is in engineering, but it's an interesting journey that both of you have had. So Laura, let's start with you.
Well, my journey started when I was in the 10th grade. I was one of those weird people who knew exactly where she thought she wanted to go. And I had a math instructor. He and his wife took me to UVA for engineering day. And at that engineering day, I saw lots of demonstrations from civil engineering to robotics. And I just walked in there thinking, I'm home. This is where I really want to be. And with that and his support, he and I, we worked on my application to make sure I got into either UVA or Virginia Tech, and I actually went to Virginia Tech for a while. And I've enjoyed engineering my whole life. So I graduated from NC State in both my undergraduate and graduate degrees. I worked for local companies. I've worked for Schneider Electric, I've worked for Black & Decker, and then two small companies. So my work in manufacturing and engineering has helped me build, the skills I need to at least show students what a manufacturing or an engineering field is like. And then I always thought teaching would be my retirement job. So about 20 years ago, I decided to retire out of industry and kind of leave that rat race and come into education. And I've enjoyed education the whole time. It's great to be able to walk students through their life, finding their niche, where they need to go, whether it is in the associate engineering program or whether it is in the applied engineering programs. Wake Tech was actually one of the first to actually bring on the engineering program. And it's been a great journey to work with NC State, UNC Charlotte, ECU, to make those transferable happen for our students.
Well, you've been a pioneer and pathbreaker in helping us get into that place as a community college, but I imagine Laura Eddington as a 10th grader,
10th grader.
Young female 10th grader who then all of a sudden finds engineering. You were unique at that time.
I was one in a sea of, many. Yeah. So at that time, it was about 5% women were mechanical engineering students at that time, and throughout, and it's not grown much. So it's one area that I really feel passionate about, trying to build women in engineering and making sure they understand that mechanical engineering is not just working on cars, getting your hands all greasy or anything, but it's actually working on equipment that's like behind you, and the exciting world of design and just being able to put your mind in that creative mode. And it's not a dirty job. Mechanical engineering is not, and it's a great way to be very diverse. And mechanical engineering is one of the most diverse fields. It will go into either construction or manufacturing. It can go into design. It is very, very well-rounded engineering program.
Well, I've always appreciated having a female leader of our engineering programs, because at Wake Tech, through our programs like Wake Invest in Women, we're trying to diversify some of the fields like engineering, but having your leadership, I think, has been very impactful at Wake Tech, and just your great leadership, but also representing that path breaking. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah. And Hassam, tell us your story, the story here to Wake Tech, which is a different story, but we're so glad you were here as well. You've made a big difference.
Thank you very much. So, somewhat similar, when I was a teenager, I was exposed, because like in my family, I didn't have any engineers, parents, and so on. So I was exposed to engineers through my mom's friends. So I see a couple that, were successful, they were building, they had a welding company. They looked, they looked like they had a lot of success that to me sounded like I want to be, that successful and so on. So that's how I started to go into engineering, and I started with material science. But then through that, I was exposed to, building and testing and failure and fixing and troubleshooting and so on. So somewhere around there, somebody told me that if you want to get to academia, if you want to train people, if you want to educate people, you kind of want to go to US and get a good degree there, good education, and then start from there. That's kind of the pathway. So that's essentially how I ended up coming to US in general. But locally to Raleigh, after my education, I moved down here for a job. And in that job, I was an application engineer. So I travel around to other companies to sell, educate, demo our products, and so on. So I got a lot of exposure through that, but also as like an educator and trainer and tutor and so on. So I went through some of those, gear changes in my life, but I think out of luck, but also I was, looking forward to a position like the one that I started here as an, educator, instructor in a, local college and community. So that's how I ended up at Wake Tech. But even at Wake Tech, I went through the MET, the mechanical engineering program. Through this, I worked with other programs. So I got really exposed to a whole lot of different things that we do at Wake Tech. And then, I happened to see this position as the program director for the AE, the college transfer, which I actually used to teach for the program as an adjunct before this. So, all of these, great opportunities were provided to me by Wake Tech and also the local community and the area that we have here. So,
and just to build on your story a little bit, because you've obviously, like so many of our faculty in our engineering programs, bring such great practical and real world skill, but it sounds like at some point along the way, you also kind of had a little vision of the education side of engineering, and that was, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, after I was done with my education, I realized that I need to get some experience in industry and get some exposure to, that side of the story before becoming a better educator. Because if you just go from, being educated to being an educator, you don't really have that much experience of what actually happens in, as an engineering in real life. So I got lucky enough that I worked for a couple companies here and there for, I travel around the world. I saw a lot of other companies and a lot of other cultures and, other environments, how to educate people, how engineers work in different countries and different fields and so on. So that was a lot of great experience and exposure that actually, confirmed that, this is the right path for me to end up as an educator. So,
and you bring all that experience into to the labs with our students.
Yep.
Before I turn to Laura with a question, I want to ask you, let me make a confession. I'm a wannabe engineer, have been all my life, but I don't think like an engineer. I could not do what you do, but I so appreciate it and always try to kind of surround myself around. But engineering has always moved us forward in terms of the advances in our society. But I kind of feel like now's a unique time at this place, in this area, but in our country, in terms of the opportunities of engineering. People talk about the electrification of society, and you'll see, we see some big job things going on all around us that are driven by engineering. Am I wrong about that, or are you seeing those kinds of connections right now?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you're exactly spot on that it is catching up more and more to the new generation, but also the previous generation, that we need to build, and engineers build, and we need to test, and engineers test, and we need to, right? So a whole lot of these, things come to realization that engineers do this. So a lot of catch up is we need engineers to build. We need engineers to, create and innovate and fix and even maintain and troubleshoot.
Absolutely. Laura, when people mention engineering and they think about engineering education, and you mentioned some of the, there's the NC State, the Virginia Tech, the Georgia Tech, may not think so much about the Wake Tech, but this room where we are, this piece of equipment behind us, is kind of a precursor of what's happening at Wake Tech. Can you talk about some of the exciting things that are happening in engineering at Wake Tech, and what makes Wake Tech so unique as part of that engineering educational fabric?
Yeah, I think engineering at Wake Tech has come a long ways. In the 20 years I have been here, we have gone from having basically classrooms with minimized tools to we use to actually train students. We've always had CAD, but the equipment has been lacking. So through the support of Wake Tech and our grants, we've been able to invest in equipment like this to actually give students a good hands-on experience that they would see out in the world. And one of the pieces of equipment back here is part of, as we talk about the super tech idea, is knowing that the world has changed. It's no longer a mechanical engineer that's going to deal with gears or belts. Is a mechanical engineer who's going to deal with electronics integrated with those gears and belts. And so that integration, that entire holistic idea of how we teach a student today is not to pigeonhole them into one particular industry or one particular career, but be able to give them the breadth that they need to be successful in any program or any situation that they are in. That's our job. Our job is to create that successful environment. Whether a student decides to say, okay, I want to do my 2 years in applied engineering and then go out and go into a career, or whether they want to do 2 years and go to the BSIT program at ECU, or whether they want to do a 2-year associate degree and say, okay, I want to go to NC State, our job is to create that ability to say, yes, you can do this, and you can actually use these tools to launch those careers.
And when you have equipment, bells and whistles go off. We have some bells and
we have
whistles
bells
going
and
off
whistles
here, but
going
that's
off right
okay.
now.
We'll kind of keep going.
Okay.
You are a thought leader. You've been a thought leader for us in this whole notion of the integration. And sometimes we use terminology like 4.0, which is used in the industrial world, the engineering world, but it's the integration between different fields, as you will, different equipment. It's there. That's been a unique aspect, and you and your faculty and team have positioned us uniquely at Wake Tech. Even the integration between, like I saw with mechanical engineering, which is more applied, and the more what we call transfer-based engineering, and bringing those intersections together. Can you talk about, you mentioned the term super tech. How does that all come together? How does this all work together, and what's different about that?
It comes together quite nicely in the fact that, it used to be at Wake Tech we had silos. You were in this particular arena, that's what you did. Whether it was automotive, whether it was electronics, whether it's electrical, facilities, maintenance, mechanical engineering, But what we've done is we've broken down those silos because we understand that in the world today, it is all about integration. It's integration about a skill set that is very broad. And that integration, this super tech that we talk about, is somebody who can do electronics, who can do mechanical, who can do troubleshooting, who doesn't have to call that engineer out when they are having trouble with a line. The idea is to get them the skill set that they can go and fix that machine before they have to call out an expensive engineer to go in there and fix. It is, and it is that skill set that's very important to a manufacturer. When they got to line down, that's money. And that's something we say, look, let's get our techs out there and let's get this line up and running and give them the skill set that they feel confident that they can do that. And the company feels confident that they can do that. We're doing that all over. I mean, if you look at the automotive program and heavy equipment program, when you think about it, it's what kind of gets you thinking when you go, you know what? That's all about satellites. Yeah. That heavy equipment is working off those satellites, and we can troubleshoot from here that equipment. Well, the same is true with this equipment. We can troubleshoot from our iPads or our technology in our palm of our hands and troubleshoot from across the county and say, okay, what's happening? Can I see what's happening in this machine and start tweaking it and start trying to get it up and running before I have to walk on that line? And I mean, that's the whole point, is to be able to give that skill set to that student. And it is a breadth of knowledge.
It takes a breadth and a depth, right?
It does. It does. Because, you're talking about programming, you're talking about looking at code, you're talking about looking at these particular limit switches to sensors. And I mean, the whole integration of that equipment, PLCs, that's the package. That's what the students are going to see out there in the world.
When you talk about the super tech concept, which pulls together that breadth of knowledge, it often reminds me of a conversation I had over 20 years ago. I was in a North Carolina manufacturing facility, and a production supervisor pointed at a technician on the floor there and said, "That's who we need." And he was describing someone who had been through, at another community college, a couple of different program areas. And he was sort of suggesting we need to produce someone like that, but maybe not where they have to go silo, silo, silo. And I think that's the beauty of what the road you're taking us down.
Right. That weaving in of that knowledge is what's important. I mean, I was in the manufacturing world, and we would give our eye teeth for a good tech because we understood the value of that tech. The technology has come a long ways in 20 years, and that is the challenge, is to make sure we keep up ahead of the technology, that we keep up with our industries, and we make sure that we understand what they need for us to do. And so, as we evolve, and we have evolved to this wonderful room that we're sitting in, and as we get to that, we always need to go back to our industry. We cannot say we're done. We're never done.
Yeah, we're not necessarily in front of them, but we're always got to be right behind them.
We do. We do. And so it's important to talk to our local industries, bring them in here. And I mean, Hassan, you've been a part of those conversations. Next week is all about that, when we're bringing in a local employer and we're taking them through some short courses in electrical, this equipment, as well as the mechanical trainers and pneumatic trainers that we have. And we're piloting that next week on being able to do that. So it's wonderful that we have the diversity of our staff and the faculty to do that. That used to be the other thing, is not having that diversity. And
diversity
now,
of experience and breadth, I guess.
Exactly, and bring it in. And what we're hoping is that we teach these young people as they go out and become a part of it, but then eventually they start giving back, and they start coming back and either wanting to adjunct for us, or maybe ambassador for us in the company that they're working for, and we can actually keep up with this industry.
Yeah. Hassan, let me ask you about the program that you lead, Laura, program that you have been involved in, but is the associate in engineering, which is unique, I think, for North Carolina, because with our great schools of engineering that exist here, our College of Engineering at NC State, A&T, our relationship with ECU, you can transfer directly those first 2 years, which is unusual. Before the associate engineering program, you would transfer to a state and hope you might get into engineering. Whereas here, you're really in those first 2 years of engineering. And I give a lot of credit. One of our board members, Louis Martin Vega, who recently retired as the Dean of College of Engineering, was a real leader in creation of that program. A former community college president, Dr. Randy Parker, who used to be at Vance Granville and Guilford Tech and Lenore when he started when he was instrumental. And then Harold Martin, who was the retiring chancellor at North Carolina A&T, has been a great friend to us, but he was the chief academic officer for the UNC system, and several folks like them were involved in creating this very unique pathway for our students. Many of our students that are their goal is to go from here right across town to the College of Engineering. Yep. And that's a unique opportunity that you do not find in other parts of the country. Can you tell us a little bit about that great program?
I wish it was available when I was going through this. But it's what I always tell the students in my program kind of early on is like, do realize that you're not investing 4 years of commitment to figure out if engineering is good for you or not, if you can make it or not. Considering 4 years of, your time and the cost that it has to get, through this degree and whether you finish it or not. And then at the end of it, mechanical engineering is not for me. Maybe I should have gone. As opposed to that is the pathway that you explain is, through the community college. Not that you're wasting any time. All these credits are going to work towards that 4-year degree. But the first 2 years, you get at lower, cost, more available classes and campuses and so on. You get exposed to a variety of different, field of engineering, other, faculties, students, and so on to figure out if engineering is right for you, which major, which discipline is right for you. And then, like I said, it just transfers. So, it's all win-win-win for the students. And again, back to, what Wake Tech offers is, even through those 2 years that you're taking courses here, you are exposed to, it used to be an engineer, somebody that you want to be, is really sharing with you the experience that they have, were exposed to through, their work. We have, in my program, faculties that are, younger than me, older than me, more senior, more junior, and they all come with their own experience and they share their experience. How was it when they were, starting and they were learning and so on, and share it with the students. So all of those are, things that are pretty valuable to the students.
Laura, I want to ask you a little bit about, I think one of the things I've enjoyed watching lately is this blend and what you and your team have been able to think through about, there's the practical, what we've often thought of as the applied, and then there's been sometimes in the transfer or the associate engineering, the more theoretical and the math heavy and all, and sometimes never the two shall meet. And I think where we're going now, and particularly with our new campus that will open in April, end of April, April 25th. We invite everybody to come out to the big grand opening, April 25th, 5:30. It's going to be a celebration that evening, fireworks, everything. Get back to the point here. That campus, though, is also offering this opportunity where you're seeing this blend with maker spaces where an associate in engineering, if you make an associate engineering choice, you're not necessarily saying, well, I'm walking away from the technology side. And if you start with technology, I've also heard a recent story of students who started down that path, but even through apprenticeship were able to transition into the pathways to get to the College of Engineering at NC State. That blend is happening at Wake Tech, and you've been thoughtful in leading that. So can you talk about those opportunities that are before us?
Because both engineering programs are under one umbrella, then we're able to expose our students to both sides. Mm-hmm. And one thing in the engineering is we have the competition. So we have the Rube Goldberg competition every semester, both fall and spring.
And that's a tradition. How long has it been around?
Oh my, let's see, 2008. I mean, it's been around for,
Wake Tech tradition.
A long time, And so that particular one, not a lot of students today have a lot of exposure to even hand tools. It's amazing. Mm-hmm. I grew up, my dad said, well, fix it. If it's broke, fix it. Today, if it's broke, we'll buy new. So, but that exposure right there gives students the teamwork skills, the hands-on skills, and the ability to, create something. that maybe they never thought they could create before, but they create something and it works. And it's an exciting time when we have all those teams competing and we got all that noise going on in that room, and it's just
a wonderful day.
It is a wonderful day.
Absolutely.
But it is a time where we can also show to the students and say, look, and at that point in time, we can say, if math isn't quite your deal, maybe calculus isn't quite your deal, that's okay. We can still make you an engineer. Okay, I've hired a lot of engineers that came out of ECU, and they're very talented and very good, but they're great with their hands, and that's what companies need. The companies need theoretical engineers, but they also need the ones that can go out and actually build, troubleshoot, kind of think on their feet, and those two skill sets are both needed in the world. What we need as educators is to help students guide themselves to which side do you want to be on, okay? And so being under one umbrella, then we can expose students to this. We can expose his students to this apparatus. We can say, if you are, and we can recognize in some of the apprenticeship programs when we say, hey, you're pretty good at math. Did you ever think about going to NC State? And well, that's where I really want to go.
Yeah.
Then we can say, well, we've got a pathway for you, and we can steer them towards that pathway with the caveat saying, if it isn't right for you, you can always come back. And the companies have been very supportive of that, and they have said, all right, if that's what they want, we'll support them in the apprenticeship program through that program and not maybe where they started. Yep. And so I think companies are also recognizing the value of the 2-year degree, the value of the 4-year degree, and that there is a place for everybody at the table.
Well, engineering has a broad opportunity. It's like healthcare. Sometimes when people think healthcare with Wake Tech, they may think just nursing. Or just imaging, but there's such a breadth of opportunity. Engineering is very much the same way.
Very much the same way. And the fact that you put us all under this one umbrella, and I got to give you credit for that, it does help us, form the relationships. Yep. And we have our applied engineering faculty working in the engineering program, vice versa. We can move people in and out. And again, the students get that exposure to those faculty and form relationships with those faculty.
Well, I remember, I'm so old, but back in the older days of engineering, or some of the American manufacturing in the 80s and 90s used to talk about the problems with throwing the product over the wall, if you will. One side of engineers would design it, and then they'd throw it over the wall to the technicians to produce, but never the two did meet, and then a lot of times the designs didn't meet what was coming out. And I think over time, that's what's come together, and that's what we see at Wake Tech. Now, in June, we will break ground on a very unique building. So for the folks who are watching on YouTube, they're seeing a very unique piece of equipment behind me, but soon it's not going to be just rooms. It's going to be a very unique advanced technology center on our new campus, Wake Tech East. Laura, can you give us a little bit of a preview what people will find there?
Sure. What people are going to find is it'll be a 3-story building that has biopharmaceutical on the top floor. But on the bottom 2 floors, we're going to have systems technology like you see behind us. We're going to have our traditional CAD classes because that's important to our faculty, our people, our industries. We're going to have big maker spaces. All right, a place where students can go and actually start building and start working with their hands and building product. And we're excited about that because, up until last year, we didn't have a place for students to go. Even in our civil engineering group, we really didn't have a place for them to go and get dirty. And now they have a place that they can go. And the same is true out in the East. When we go there, we're going to have a place where students can really embrace both the hands-on side of the business as well as the theoretical side of the business, and we'll be under, again, this one umbrella. And you can just see the excitement. I'm excited about it. I think it'll be great. I mean, we'll have one room like this. We'll have another room that has the mechanical and pneumatic trainers. Then down on the bottom floor, we'll have a big materials lab for you, Hassan. You can have your materials lab, which is going to be great.
Back in your home materials, material science.
Yep, because again, it's not enough to know that material is plastic. It's enough to know to say, what is that material going to do for you? These steel legs. Thank you. These steel legs. What is the properties that make that steel, keep you in that seat rather than falling down, that type of thing. And we'll look at the grain structures of those. And I think, students need to understand that it's just not a piece of bar.
Yeah.
There is fundamental structure in that bar that makes it unique for the properties and the strengths that we're going to put the application through. We'll have our maker spaces, which have 3D print labs. We'll have laser cutters in there. We'll have machining. We'll have woodworking. It'll be an exciting time for us.
Well, thanks to you all and the architects and designers. The design is in the can now, and June 18th we will break ground on that great new facility, which will be the next chapter in engineering at Wake Tech. Before I get to one final question for each of you, Laura, can you, just a couple weeks ago, we were in this room for an important announcement, but a new relationship with Society of Manufacturing Engineers across the United States and other community colleges that we're excited to partner with. Can you tell us a little bit about what that partnership entails?
That partnership is going to be a very fun partnership. And the fact that SME, been around for a long time, it's a huge organization, nationwide organization. So it will give us kind of connections to industries, to our academic partners, but also give us the ability to link into their educational system, where we can pull down some of the modules that they have created to actually augment and help us train our students in the state-of-the-art equipment that we actually have here and what the students can experience out in the world. I mean, we're excited about we're piloting it right now. Chris Irwin, our electronics program director, is out there doing it, and in bringing those modules in, it is going to be another avenue for us to show students. And then, of course, that linkage to companies, that is just so important for Wake Tech to always remember our foundation is with the companies that we serve.
That's right, and the jobs that are out there, real jobs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we're excited about that. We're excited about that connection.
Well, I'm going to ask to wrap it up, each of you to say, for listeners out there, why Wake Tech Engineering? What is your elevator pitch on that? But before I do, I think the SME, the Society of Manufacturing Engineers relationship is kind of an example of why Wake Tech Engineering, because we were selected by Society of Manufacturing Engineers to be one of only 25 community colleges across the country that they selected because they see us as a pipeline to those great advanced manufacturing opportunities and other opportunities that are growing in our region and around the country. And so I think SME saw something in Wake Tech. You each have seen something in Wake Tech that brought you here, but when you're talking to a student or their family member who may be listening to this podcast right now, what would you say, why Wake Tech Engineering right now? Hassan?
Well, I think definitely part of it is, the pathways that we have, the agreements that we have with, four-year degree colleges and so on. But I think the other very valuable thing that we have at Wake Tech is the connection and the communication that we have with the industry. Laura explained this very well, but, we are constantly in communication with our local industry, but industry in general, to know what's the new thing, what is the skill that employers need and all that. But also another thing is, the education that we give our students is adaptable knowledge. We're not educating them to just work on that thing. They just learn on that, but whatever that thing is, they can apply it to other things. The example that I make is, if we teach you how to drive let's say Toyota, you can still drive a Honda and so on and so forth. I think that's another valuable thing that we give our students is an adaptable knowledge that they're not married to one education, one kind of job, one company. They are, very diverse in their education and their field and, opportunities that are in the area that are in connection with us. So I think we're setting up our students with a lot of success, a lot of, positive, good, future for themselves, as well as us, as well as Wake Tech.
So it sounds like you're saying adaptability for the future, but real world applicability for the jobs that are in our community right now.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
Dean Eddington, bring us home. Why you've made a career and you've made us who we are here in engineering at Wake Tech. Why engineering at Wake Tech right now?
I think there's a lot of reasons, okay, and adaptable education is definitely part of it. But I think if any young person is out there and they're trying to figure out what they want to do in the world today, where do they want to go, and it's hard for young people to figure that out. I find when we talk to people, they don't have as much of a vision. Okay, I mean, I had a mentor. I don't know who their mentor is, but I think Wake Tech could be the great mentor of these young people and bring them into what is available to them. And at the cost of what we offer, we have the ability to give them an affordable education and be able to guide them through what their passion might be. Okay, and that's what we do is we sit down and we talk to them and say, what is it you want to do? Not what your dad or your mom wants you to do, but what do you want to do? Where do you see? And we'll take them through all of these labs, from the welding labs to the HVAC labs to these labs to the materials labs, and we'll say, look, where do you see yourself? And I think that's one thing that Wake Tech can do is we provide that personal experience for a student to be successful in whatever they want to be. If by chance they say, hey, I really like to draw, and I had one student who was beautiful drawer. I mean, it drew great things. I said, you know what, did you ever think about the a graphics art program, or that type, or maybe a CAD program, or architectural program? Did you ever, so you try and get that relationship going and establish that relationship with our students and be able to bring them to where they want to be. And I think that's what Wake Tech, and students have the time to do that. I tell students all the time, it's not how fast you get there, it's how well you get there. And where you see your passion, because the 3 years, 2 years, or 4 years you invest in Wake Tech, and it takes that long sometimes.
For part-timers.
I mean, that's into a 40-year career. It's an investment that's worth your time to look and see where you want to go.
Well, you don't have to know what it is when you come to Wake Tech, but you can find it through Wake Tech, and then you'll find a pathway to it in terms of what that next step is through Wake Tech, and that is something that makes us unique. And what makes us particularly unique at Wake Tech are very unique people who are passionate about their professions, but passionate about education and the students and the opportunities that exist for people in our community and our students at Wake Tech. And we're very fortunate today to have been joined by two of our great leaders at Wake Tech, our engineering leaders, Dr. Hassam Gassemi, who leads our Associate in Engineering, our transfer engineering program, and Dean Dr. Laura Eddington, Dean of the best program, the Building Engineering and Skilled Trades program at Wake Tech. We're so appreciative for what they do for Wake Tech, and thanks to Laura and Hassam for sharing more about the engineering programs today at Wake Tech, and thanks to you for joining us for this episode of We Are Wake Tech. Please go out and rate this podcast and tell others that they can find the We Are Wake Tech podcast on Spotify, Apple, all the places they would look for podcasts. And until next time, I'm your host, Scott Rawls. Thank you for joining us on We Are Wake Tech.
I'm Joshua McKinney with your Wake Tech News Update. Wake Tech is among a select group of community and technical colleges across the United States working together to increase the talent pipeline for the manufacturing industry. The Workforce Pipeline Challenge is a 3-year pilot program designed to address the industry's workforce shortage and skills gap crisis. Led by the Society of Manufacturing Engineers, the national nonprofit is committed to accelerating new manufacturing technology adoption and building North America's manufacturing talent and capabilities. Wake Tech's work building community partnerships took the national stage during the 2024 Achieving the Dream Conference. Wake Tech President Dr. Scott Rawls, Hugh McLean, Vice President of Operations for the Boys and Girls Club serving Wake County, and Wake Tech alumna Khadijah Scarborough served as panelists for a session focused on the transformative impact of community partnerships. Culinary and baking students earned a total of 36 medals at the North Carolina American Culinary Federation competition at the Scott Northern Wake campus. It is the largest competition of its kind. 13 entries won gold, 18 received silver, and 5 bronze. All entries were judged on artistry, craftsmanship, theme, and presentation based all on ACF scales. You're invited to a grand opening. Wake Tech East. It's Wake Tech's newest location in Wendell. Join us on April 25th, beginning at 5:30 p.m. for music, food, fun, tours, and much more. Wake Tech East offers a chance to earn a college degree close to home in some of the most high-tech facilities around. Information technology, engineering, aviation, EMS, public safety, and more. It's all being offered at Wake Tech East, located on Rollsville Road off of I-87 in Wendell. Again, the grand opening is April 25th at 5:30 p.m. We sure hope to see you there. Wake Tech is proud to announce Dr. Keith Babushchek, Provost for IT Programs at the RTP campus, has been selected as a 2024-25 Fulbright U.S. Scholar for the prestigious Fulbright Nehru International Education Administrators Program in India. Dr. Babushchek joins a distinguished group of faculty and administrators to visit colleges and universities in and around Delhi, as well as participate in cultural excursions and presentations. Wake Tech is also pleased to announce Mark Sullivan as the new department head for Criminal Justice and Forensic Science Technologies and Public Safety Administration. Sullivan, who brings decades of experience as a law enforcement officer and instructor to the role, will manage departmental resources and faculty. You can explore all the opportunities that await you at Wake Tech during Open House at the Scott Northern Wake campus and Perry Health Sciences campus from 9 a.m. to noon on Saturday, April 13th. Explore academic programs, navigate the admissions and financial aid process, discover support services and resources, and tour campuses with a student leader. Register today at openhouse.waketech.edu. For more news, we're always on. Visit us at news.waketech.edu, and that's your Wake Tech News Update.
Hey, I'm Dana Trent. I'm a professor of world religions and critical thinking here at Wake Tech, and these are my 4 tips for coping with semester stress. It's easy to remember these tips with 4 words: balance, breaks, sleep, and move. The first tip is about balance. We always encourage our students to have a work-life-school balance, and this includes dedicating 30 minutes at least every day to doing something that you love that is not related to schoolwork. That could be pursuing a hobby, that could be connecting with friends. Anything that you're passionate about will boost your mental health and reduce your stress. The next one is breaks. When you are doing your schoolwork, please take breaks. Studies have shown that your focused time interspersed with strategic breaks actually improves your work during the focused time. One of the techniques that I like to use is called Pomodoro, which is 25 minutes of focused work followed by short breaks. And during your breaks, you can take some deep breaths, you can walk away from your screen. All of that will help rejuvenate you for your focused time. The next one is sleep. Sleep is so important to our physical, natural rhythms, and it helps us in all aspects of our lives. If you're having trouble sleeping at night, look up a yoga nidra meditation on YouTube, listen to some relaxing music, do something that helps you get ready for bed and helps you go to sleep faster so you can stay asleep longer. And the last one is move. Movement reduces stress. So whether that's going to the gym, working out, taking a brisk walk, stretching, or putting on your favorite music and dancing in your room, make sure you are moving your body a little bit every day and making it a part of your routine. That's balance, breaks, sleep, and move. Those are my 4 tips for your semester success, and hope it's a stress-free semester.
Thank you for listening to the We Are Wake Tech podcast. Join us next month for more insightful conversations about the programs and people of Wake Tech and how the college changes lives every day. Be sure to subscribe to your favorite podcast app to have each episode delivered right to your computer or mobile device. For more, find us at podcast.waketech.edu. To learn more about Wake Tech's exceptional educational opportunities, visit waketech.edu.